Hi, friends. Most expats don't get into trouble because they chose the wrong country. They get into trouble because they chose a place based on the vacation version of it. They saw the beaches, the cafes, the lower cost, the beautiful condo, the walkable old town, the retirement videos, or the digital nomad highlight reel. And then they skip the most important step. They didn't test the place as a real home base. That's the mistake. Choosing where you want to live before you've spent enough time there to understand what ordinary life actually feels like for you. A vacation tells you whether you enjoy a place. A test stay tells you whether your life works there. Those are not the same thing. I learned a version of this a long time ago. When I graduated from college, I had this vision of myself living in New York City, working as an artist and a registrar at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Somewhere inside that dream, I met my husband, and he was still in school, and we both were in Seattle. He applied to grad school and was accepted to one on the East Coast. And I thought, great, my plan is going to work. We sold our Miata and we bought a Jetta so we could drive from Seattle to Rhode Island with 2 cats. I had visited Rhode Island and New York a couple of times, but both times maybe totaled 2 weeks. We had an apartment lined up. I thought I had a job lined up. I was working in tech at the time on the Microsoft campus in Redmond, Washington, and we left that summer. When we got there, the apartment was not what it looked like in the photos. The neighborhood was not what it looked like in the photos. The vibe was completely off. It was horrible. Then the weather turned much colder earlier than what we expected. The weatherman came on and said, tomorrow it will be bitter cold and snow. We looked at each other and we laughed at the phrase bitter cold. I mean, what does bitter cold mean? Then we went outside the next morning and realized bitter cold means your eyeballs freeze. The water in your eyeballs freeze. I also went to meet my new employer dressed the way that I dressed at Microsoft. It was the 90s. I was in my 20s. I wore a miniskirt and Mary Janes. I walked into the office to meet my new boss. She was in her 50s. She was smoking with hair that would not move in a Category 5 hurricane. She looked me up and down and said, I can't send you to a client. You aren't wearing hosiery. The job was IT support. I would be moving computers and crawling under desks to hook things up. Hosiery? That was what my mother and my grandmother wore. No one on the West Coast in tech talked about hosiery. Nobody wore it. It was a relic already then. Then there was the hidden expense in the basement of the apartment building. It was a big thing, and it was as hungry as a horse. And we did not have them on the West Coast. We do not have them on the West Coast. It's a heating oil tank. It costs more to heat that dank apartment than the rent cost. And no one told us that. It was just assumed. And lastly, there was this identity shift for me. I thought I was a Republican until I met East Coast Republicans. Then I realized, oh, I'm actually a West Coast liberal. The point is not that Rhode Island was bad. The point is I had built a whole plan around a version of a place I did not actually understand. It was fine on vacation. That's what can happen to you when you choose a home base from a distance. On vacation, almost everything gets softened. You can stay in the prettiest part of town. You can eat out every meal. You can ignore errands. You can take taxis everywhere. You can avoid the boring parts. You can overlook the noise, the heat, the traffic, the bad sidewalks, the stairs, the complicated transportation, or the fact that you have no idea where you would go if you got sick. Then you go home before the friction catches up with you. That's a vacation. But a home base is different. If you're doing slow travel, a home base is where you buy groceries, do laundry, get medication, find a doctor, solve internet problems, deal with weather, figure out transportation, rest, work if you need to, and live an ordinary Tuesday. That ordinary Tuesday matters more than a vacation highlight reel. Research helps. YouTube videos help. Facebook groups help. Blogs, forums, cost of living videos, and expat interviews can all help you narrow the list, but research alone cannot fully answer the personal fit question. Other people can tell you what worked for them. They cannot tell you what will work for you. Your body, what will work for your habits, your transportation comforts, your budget, your health needs, your relationships, your stress levels, the way you actually live day to day. That's why the test stay matters. And I do not mean a perfect vacation. I mean staying somewhere long enough to find out what happens after the novelty wears off. Stay in the kind of neighborhood you might actually want to live in, not just the tourist zones. Try to buy the food you normally eat. I mean, this is obvious stuff. See whether the grocery store is easy or annoying. Do they have your favorite products? Can you make a substitution? Use the transportation you would actually use if you lived there. Don't take Ubers everywhere. Walk the neighborhood at different times of the day. And if you are testing a place or buying a home, go out at night. Go out at 10 p.m. on a Friday, always. See what the neighborhood is really like then. See if the people are home, if the bars are open, if the traffic changes, are there dogs barking, what's the crime like? When the daytime version has worn off. Notice the noise, notice the sidewalks, notice the heat, notice the rain, notice the hills, notice the traffic, notice the stairs. Notice every small inconvenience that will either become manageable or start to wear you down. Healthcare matters too. Where is the nearest clinic? Where is the hospital? Can you get your prescriptions? Are they affordable? Are they generic? Can you communicate well enough to handle a basic medical problem? Not just, ow! You need to know, can you communicate? Would you feel calm if something went wrong? Or would you immediately want to go get on a plane and go back home? Transportation can also make or break a home base. Will you need a car? Is a scooter realistic for you? Or is that just something other people make look easy on YouTube? I've never really driven a scooter. I've been on the back of them. I've driven a car. Can you rely on trains, buses, taxi, ride sharing, walking? A place can look affordable until every errand becomes a project. A place can look peaceful until you realize you are isolated without a vehicle. I mean, if you're a city person and you move to a suburb, that could really cramp your style. Housing's the same way. Photos aren't enough. A beautiful apartment can have terrible noise. It could have a weird smell. Airflow's weird, bad airflow, weak internet, unsafe stairs, bugs, mold, a landlord that's crazy, no storage, a location that only looked convenient on a map. And sometimes the less glamorous places are the ones that for daily life actually works. So when you do slow travel, a home base is where your life will function. A home base isn't just a destination. It's a place where your life has to make sense for you. Could you do it for a month? Could you do it for 3 months? Could you do it for 6 months? I mean, it really depends on how you're going to slow travel. Would you come back again? That tells you more than the perfect vacation day. Would you come back? Make a plan and test it. You should keep the plan flexible long enough to learn what you don't know yet. This is especially important if you are older, retired, semi-retired, working remotely, or making decisions around buying a house or investing. If you are selling a home, renting it out, or downsizing, moving, retirement money, changing insurance, or planning around healthcare, the cost of being wrong is even higher. Rent before you buy if possible. Try the neighborhood before you commit. That's my advice. Visit during more than one season. If the weather could be an issue. Does it snow? Is it too warm all the time? Don't assume a cheaper place will automatically lower your bills and your stress. Don't assume another expat's favorite neighborhood will be your favorite neighborhood. You don't know them, they're just someone on YouTube. Don't assume you could adapt to driving on the other side of the road, other side of the car. Don't assume you could always navigate steps or be in isolation, because some people did. Maybe you can, maybe you cannot. A test stay gives you better information before the stakes get too high. Slow Travel Homes is about that kind of thinking. Let's make a plan, not just where you should go, but what kind of life are you trying to create and what places can actually support that life. If you are thinking about slow travel, retiring abroad, becoming a future expat, working remotely, or investing overseas, or choosing a home base, visit before you commit. If you can, do more than one visit. Test the place. Live there long enough to find out what daily life feels like after the vacation version of it fades. That's the one step that can save you money, stress, and disappointment. If this kind of practical slow travel and life abroad conversation is useful to you, subscribe, like the video, and follow along. You can also contact me at hello@slowtravelhomes.com. I'm Tracy. Thanks for being here. I'll see you later, friend.